Guido, thanks for being here. I'm super excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Mike. I'm super excited as well. And, thank you very much for inviting me.
Dude, we met at a conference and it was so much fun interacting with you because of the amazing things that you've done and the stories that you have. I'm super excited to dive into that today.
I loved meeting you. And actually, I love what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, to kick things off, walk us through. You got this company called Vnovo. What do you even do?
Yes, exactly. It's like one of these things that if you look at it from the surface, it's very technical, but ultimately we work on something that is very important to everybody. And before saying what I do, I'll start a little bit saying what I believe in and what I was believing
Mm.
in when I created Vinova together with my co-founders and friends. Essentially, we have the possibility to do more with less. I know it sounds like kind of Walmart, but it's really true. And in digital, especially, which is so important, there is a possibility to be more efficient, to anticipate the future, and to do more things with the power, the devices, etc., that we have. And this is just by essentially using more efficiently and effectively the stuff that we have.
Mm.
This actually boils down to compression of data, because when you talk about digital, and everybody can experience digital in their lives, every time you do a video call or you watch TV or you go to the cinema or you do more gaming or VR, you name it, there's always a lot, or even very professional things like medical, automotive, and now AI and everything that you're doing with data and machines that make sense of it. It's always about ultimately processing, moving, storing, transmitting data. And the way in which you
Mm.
represent this data in digital has an incredible impact on how efficiently you can do all those things. And what
Mm.
we had seen, and what I also personally had noticed, is that there was an opportunity. And entrepreneurship is always about kind of noticing that there's an opportunity, there's something that could be done to make things better, and then taking kind of the leap and doing it. And this had to kind of be important, because that opportunity, that gap that we had seen, was really relevant, and could allow to essentially push ahead by 5 to 10 years everything that was possible with digital data, just by changing the way in which data was encoded. And that's how we started
That's
Vinova. And gradually, from mainly a business person, because before Vinova I was a senior partner at McKinsey and Company, so kind of a consultant, and doing things that are very different from a tech company, let's say, even if I dealt a lot with tech and innovation and also digital in my past. Essentially, I progressively became what I am today, so the CEO of a deep tech company.
That's amazing. I think at a kind of a really simple level, if I understand it right, Netflix, Hulu, like streaming TV services wouldn't work very well without the technologies that you help make. Is that right?
Well, currently, to be fair, they do work with the existing technologies, but using our technologies that now have been standardized, etc., they will be able to work more efficiently to deliver better quality. And
Mm.
aside from what people are used to doing today, the point is also enabling stuff that is simply not possible today. And I'll make a very simple example. If you talk about Netflix today or Instagram or services like those, our technologies, and in particular, I'm talking about the standard MPEG-5 LCVC, which is the standard that as Vinova we spearheaded and is now being adopted in the ecosystem, that will be able to drive a lot of efficiency. So essentially, you can transmit much less data. We're talking 30 to 50%. You can use much less processing power with 50 to 70%, which means savings, but also less power. And also more people will be able to receive better quality. And this is all great. But from an emotional point, let me be completely honest, you will be seeing the same things, because if you are receiving a good service today, pretty much you will be seeing the same things, just it'll be more efficient. So it's great, efficiency is great, but emotionally it'll be the same. More people will be able to do it, especially if they are in remote areas or they didn't have great connectivity. But even more exciting, as I said before, is doing more with less, not just the same with less. That's why that sentence is trite, but is pretty profound, because as humans, we want to grow. We want to do more. We don't just want to do the same more efficiently, but we want to do more efficiently. And one example is what we are working on right now, which will drive a sort of singularity. Let me be a little bit emphatic on this, but we're driving a singularity in visual entertainment because today, have you ever tried, for instance, immersive media with VR and AR? Some kind of immersive media. Yeah, incredible. But so far, let me be completely honest, a little bit underwhelming, because the experiences that you can try in museums, etc., they are nice gimmicks, but in reality, they make a lot of people sick, and they are not really the real deal, because when you move your head, either the quality is pretty low because you can do them like kind of a video game, or you cannot look behind objects. You don't have what is called parallax. So you're not really in a 3D world where you can move freely and look behind objects, etc. But you are kind of having a flat video wrapped around you as a ball of video. And that's nice, but not that much, because as soon as you move your head, you immediately notice the trick, and it feels disturbing. Now, the good news for everybody wanting to live within a movie is that we are about to launch together with some of the biggest studios of the planet the possibility to actually be inside a volumetric movie. So with the quality of a Hollywood CGI feature film, think Avatar 2, or think, a DreamWorks animation, anything like that. I think Jurassic Park, etc. You'll be able to be inside, and it'll be exactly like being there. And before,
Man, let me spell that out for a moment.
Yep.
You're actually saying that coming at some point in the future, we won't be able to just see a movie. It's not just 3D. We can actually live inside the movie.
Yep.
Wow. And you say you got partnerships with different studios? Or what's happening?
Actually, to be honest, I mentioned DreamWorks because that was publicly announced 2 days ago at SIGGRAPH. So, that's one of them. But also there are a few others. I can mention also Real Effects, a very big, important CGI production studio. And there are many others. And actually, the interesting thing, this will happen as early as possibly Christmas, or otherwise it's Q1 2024, and people will be able to see these things. And we're talking about really cool things that will range from...
What movies are you starting with? Can you mention?
I'm sorry? What?
What movies are you starting with?
Well, that we are not at liberty to mention yet, but I'll tell you that there will be quite a range of experiences, from tier 1 titles, so, titles that use content that is very renowned to people, to new experiences, so new productions, and I'll mention one that is particularly telltale. Think about being in a haunted house horror film with real volumetric actors, so people that are filmed with multiple cameras, so that you have the volumetric actors, and you'll be inside the horror movie. That will be pretty cool. Especially people will freak out quite a bit. Or there are actually things. Can you take
existing 3D movies and make it volumetric, or do you have to use 3D animated movies?
No, thank you for the question. The answer is yes. That's actually the beauty of this technology. Essentially, you can take anything in the past, say, 20 years that was filmed in 3D. So all the animations that you know and love, including kind of the top tier ones or others, and that can be reformatted in this format. You just need to take the original assets and re-render them into this new format, and then you can deliver them to tens of millions of people. Because today already 30 million people bought VR AR devices, but thanks to Apple that is entering the arena, we kind of expect that in the next year or two we'll see many more tens of millions of families equipped with these devices and able to enter this fantastic world, new world of entertainment. And the thing is, it's really like a movie, and it doesn't cost much to produce these pieces of entertainment. It's just the typical production of CGI movies. This is exciting, but going back to my initial point, you wouldn't associate this with compression, because you would say, oh my God, this is so cool because this is VR, AR, it depends on devices, etc. But this technology and this idea, believe it or not, is not ours. It's been around for 9 years, but it was almost a terabit of data. And so if it's a terabit of data, what do you do with it? You not only can't you transmit it to people, but you can't even, you need a special supercomputer to just even see it. And by compressing it to manageable levels, instead, we are now able to deliver it to normal devices, so people that buy a Meta Quest device for $300 or the new one for $500, or a PlayStation VR2 device for $550, or the new fantastic Apple Vision Pro at $3,500. So depending on their price range, they can actually experience this stuff.
That's awesome. So I imagine that they could definitely look forward in the video and kind of move their head around, but can they actually look backwards? Like, I can't imagine the 3D films built all that stuff behind them.
Yeah, that's actually, in reality, yes, they can. Normally, there's not much happening if the film is done in a certain way. Ultimately, there is a direction that you need to look at for any scene. And this is actually a problem of existing immersive entertainment. Since it's so easy to make people sick if you don't do it the right way, normally the scene is very static. So, you're just in person looking at something maybe for 20, 30 seconds with the same shot. And objects are pretty distant, because if they are too close, they make you sick, etc. That's not particularly good. Normally, when you're watching a movie, every 2, 3, 4 seconds, you have a scene change, and the director is actually giving a director's cut, and you're seeing the scene from this point of view, and now this point of view, and now this point of view. And you're an observer. You're not in the movie in the sense that you're a participant. You're watching a story. Somebody's telling you a story. And frankly, I prefer a professional director to tell me a story without me choosing the point of view or running around the home to do it. So the important thing is being able to move a little bit, being able to look around a little bit. It's difficult that when you're watching something, you want to really look totally behind where the action is that the director is wanting you to see. You can, but you don't need to put a lot of stuff there. So it's totally fine if you fill the blanks with, something like, for instance, if you have some characters in front of you that are doing something and you look behind, maybe behind there's, just the panorama and nothing happening. And so, you may look at it for the 2 seconds before the next scene cut, but there's nothing much to see there.
So as a viewer, will you see a different shot every 2 or 3 seconds, or will you change our paradigm and they'll sit in one spot for 30 seconds for that part of the film?
Totally the former, because otherwise it's that boring, because we want action. And normally, for the examples that we've worked on so far, the direction is very similar to a normal movie, to the point that you can repurpose and reformat a normal movie with the same type of direction of the original, say, animation. We published, as an example on SteamVR, an 8-year-old animation that was designed to be seen as a video. And we just reformatted it with the same type of direction. So you have the same type of scene changes every 2, 3, 4 seconds. And, it just works. You're just inside, but so it's much more immersive. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Do you feel sick being bounced around between shots every couple of
That's a
seconds?
beautiful thing. No, actually, now after a year of showing it
Huh.
to everybody, and I was the first canary in the gold mine because I get sick immediately when I watch immersive video. I was recently in, I will not say in what place, but I was in New York, and I watched, one of the normal immersive experiences. After 2 minutes, I had to close my eyes and stop moving because I was feeling sick. So
Mm.
I'm actually one of the worst people at this, and I can stay happily 1 hour inside without any problems. I'm not saying that at the beginning, these experiences will require people to stay 60, 90 minutes in. We will publish mostly shorts from 10 to 40 minutes. But frankly, all the demos that I've done to people that claim that they are normally motion sick with VR, they stayed happily for more than 30 minutes watching all the demos, and then they were asking for more. So it's
Wow.
pretty cool stuff.
So then, do you think directors and movie creators will actually change the way they make movies as a result of this new medium?
We're talking to them about it, and the interesting thing is that at the beginning they don't need to, but I believe that over time, yes, they will, because you as always when you have a new format, you can, the most immediate thing is to reuse everything that you learned with the previous one and see what works, etc. And if you think about it, even when TV came out. Immediately they were using it like radio plus video, and it worked, but then you learned that you could do reality shows and you could do other things, etc. So I think that this format, it's quite nice just being used as volumetric video, but there are a lot of things that can be done that have not been done before. By the way, I talked about movies, but it's not just about movies. Think about music. Your favorite
Hmm.
singer or dancer, singer, etc. She can or he can create an experience where you see a sort of volumetric video experience where you meet her and you see her from very, very up close. You can really see her, and she almost looks real, half a meter from you, and you can look at her in the ear if you want, or him. But she or he can take you, they can take you in the world. So, if it's Metallica, they can take you to hell. Or if it's Taylor Swift or somebody else, they can take you to wherever, to the moon, to Pandora, to whatever, because it's CGI. So, there's the magic of being able to take you everywhere. And so, this combined with immersive music can create new sorts of entertainment experiences that can be very valuable,
Hmm.
and can also be a new source of monetization for artists, and they don't cost much because all this costs like normal CGI production. So sorry about the
How
detour,
about
but that
live
shows
action?
how compression is really, it
Yeah.
sounds very, but after all, we're used to it for sound. Sound, better sound compression allows more cinematic immersive sound. Similarly for visuals, etc. Better compression can allow things that otherwise wouldn't be possible.
How about live action? Is there a way to capture enough data in the real world to recreate this in 3D?
Yeah, actually, that's the interesting thing. When I was telling you about the horror movie, that will be live action in the sense real people. And yes,
Really?
the answer is you can capture real people with a technique called volu capture. So you use a lot of cameras. They need to be higher resolution, and then you obtain a volumetric rendition of the person. Where, for instance, for somebody like me with a goatee, you can literally see the hairs in my beard and the pores in my skin. So it's quite precise.
Wow.
And now, this process is the same process that Hollywood has used for the past 15 years in many special effects. Now, interestingly, prices went down quite dramatically to the point that it costs just a few $1,000s per minute now to do a volu capture, even at high resolution. And with AI, the promise is it'll be even cheaper going forward, because now you need a lot of cameras, let's say 20 cameras to reproduce a volumetric human. But with a bit of AI, I believe that very soon we'll need just maybe 3, 4, 5 cameras. And so prices will go further down because the AI can interpolate much more efficiently the data coming from a few sensors. And so you can capture real humans, and you can mix them with special effects and CGI, so computer graphics, so that you can have, I was mentioning, Taylor Swift. You can have Taylor Swift playing with a T-Rex from Jurassic Park. Why not? I'm not sure that would be a creative, a good thing to do creatively, but it's certainly possible and fairly inexpensive to do.
Is there a world that you see using AI to help with your compression?
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting. For now, it's more true the opposite. Our compression helps AI because another thing that I mentioned at the beginning, when you treat the data efficiently, you also make machines more intelligent because they can process data more effectively. I'll make a very simple example. If you need to detect faces and objects in video cameras coming from all sorts of places, you need to analyze a lot of video, possibly at high resolution, to kind of identify and detect the faces, recognize them, and objects and scenes, etc. Paradoxically, a big bottleneck in that process is actually data management. Believe it or not, it's not the act of recognizing my face versus your face, but it's actually the act of bringing those pixels to the neural networks that will perform the recognition. This is Mike, this is Guido. And what we've demonstrated is that using our standard compression for AI acceleration, we can accelerate any place from 3 times to 8 times the process of media indexing, so essentially classification of data by recognizing stuff. Also because you can perform a sort of native Google Earth, let's say, where you don't need necessarily to process at the same time all of the data in uncompressed form, but you can decode and decompress only what you need at any one time very quickly. Which is very similar to what we do personally when we operate in the world. If you think about it, our retinas get so much data and also all of our sensors, but we pay attention to only small parts at any one time, and that's how our brain can cope and we can be smart. And this actually depends a lot on how our brain performs data compression, because we get all this sensor data, but we manage it in a way that our thalamus, our neurocortex, and all the kind of other parts of the brain that process it can operate on small data very quickly. And the same is possible if you manage data appropriately.
One of the, so you're painting this amazing picture, right, of this future world that we're entering into, that we can have these experiences that we just can't do today in a powerful way. So you've created this new vision, this new future. But I want to take a step back now and look at what that story was. How did you even get here? So let's go way back. I think you started your career at McKinsey. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I was a
tell us a little bit about that. So you jump in. McKinsey is a management consulting company. You're helping out some big organizations, I'm assuming. Walk us through that.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I've always loved big stuff, big change, big transformations. And McKinsey was fantastic for me to work all around the world in pretty much any sector, including, anything from transportation, mining, banking, insurance, media, to government, even working with governments, both in developed countries and developing countries. So, very, very interesting and enriching experience. And also, I loved really being an agent of change. And then over time, I realized that I was pretty good at entrepreneurial efforts, also within the firm, where, I was one of the partners that led some of the entrepreneurial efforts of McKinsey, like, the forays into which now became McKinsey Digital. I created the very first apps of McKinsey and stuff like that. And then at one point I realized that I was more of an entrepreneur than a consultant. And so I started being an avid angel investor. And that was kind of good training for me to kind of have a sense of what it was about with tech companies. I had an entrepreneurial experience from my background because my parents and grandparents were entrepreneurs. So, if you want, it ran in the blood a little bit. So it was more of a detour from my real self, McKinsey. And then I decided at one point to take the plunge where the opportunity came with Vinova. And it felt big enough as an attempt to justify leaving a place that I love and where I really had a lot of fun.
Awesome. So let's break some of that stuff down a little bit. When you're working for McKinsey, what sort of things were you doing to help these organizations?
Well, a lot of them. I was leading in the Mediterranean transformational change, organization operations, and M&A. So I was working very often with companies that had to restructure and change. And in general, I've always loved to work with sectors that were at the brink of some important change. So those moments when something happens. I've always been the kind of guy that likes change, and I mean big change, positive change. Essentially having an impact and doing something valuable. And I guess that this is really a bit the entrepreneurial bug, which can run also in consultants and can run also in all sorts of people. Essentially looking for things that allow you to make a difference, things that allow you to transform something that is less efficient into something that is more efficient, etc. Sometimes it meant restructuring companies that were out of business, so sometimes also things that were on daily newspapers because we were talking about pretty famous turnarounds. I cannot say which ones, of course, but let me say that I've been involved in stuff that was on headlines of global newspapers quite a lot of times. And there's a lot of stress in that.
Are the newspapers accurate?
It's surprisingly so. Surprisingly so. Much more than people think. In reality, especially today, there's a lot of talk about dark powers or mysterious things, etc. In reality, is working on very important things. I could see that the information that you find on newspapers, especially if you look carefully and you filter well, you find all the right stuff. So there are not many secrets, and definitely there aren't all these conspiracy theories that typically assume humans that are very different from how humans really operate. And so no, it's fairly accurate, although as always, you find very often on newspapers everything and the opposite of everything. So there's the accurate one, but there's also the inaccurate one. So you need to kind of be able to tell which is which.
So growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be kind of making this large of a change?
Well, yeah, to be honest, yes, I believe, and I guess this is true also for you. It's something that you feel since the very beginning, and it's this a will of doing something important, making a difference in a positive way, and identifying opportunities, but not just to point them out and say, "Oh my God, this should be done like this." Yeah, it's not efficient, but wanting to drive change. And this is actually something that typically is in the character of people since early age, and that was definitely my case. I've always wanted to do it in innovation. I've always been passionate about technological innovation in a lot of fields, not just digital. I worked a lot also in healthcare, and we might say that I'm more of an expert in epigenetics than I am in data coding. Or actually in energy as well, where I spent quite a lot of time as well, and in finance as well, where I spent a lot of time as well. So in reality, all sectors are similar in the sense that they involve humans and machines, and you need to kind of work together in order to do something, and that's kind of the essence. And entrepreneurship is really driving positive change so that humanity as a whole can be more efficient and do better things, as I was saying before, more with less, which is inevitable for growth, which is ultimately the purpose of life. So
Where did you go to college?
I went initially engineering in Milan, then I completed it with graduate studies at University of Texas and MBA at MIT.
That's
So
what.
I have a lot of
So
American education as well.
yeah, so MIT is obviously this impressive college. What is it actually like there? Is it a bunch of snobby geeks kind of running around, or what is it
MIT
actually
is
like?
just fantastic. Best years of my life, and great community.
Mm,
At MIT you really learn, like we say, to drink from the fire hose. So there's so much in terms of
mm,
so many things to do, so many bright people, so much diversity. And so much innovation that there are just not enough hours in the day to kind of have fun with it. And also the other thing is really this drive for innovative leadership. So not just managing effectively what there is, but driving change, positive change. So it's really kind of aligned with everything that I said before. And plus, also the other important thing of MIT is really our motto. Don't take yourself. Take your job very seriously, not necessarily yourself.
mm.
So it's a very fun
Yeah.
community. Lots of parties, very wild parties, and fantastic environment, and not incidentally very entrepreneurial. Plus, Boston is a fantastic place because aside from MIT itself, you have the opportunity to benefit from Harvard. For instance, I was kind of doing classes at
Mm,
HBS at Harvard Business School as well, and meeting with a lot of people that were coming there for just the fact that Boston is a financial center. So you get every year all the top CEOs and the most important people of the planet that come there to talk to their investors, and they stop by top universities. So you have the opportunity to have dinner with Warren Buffett, or meet in a round table Bill Gates and stuff like that. So it's really important also for your
did you actually get
personal.
those opportunities, or those are just examples?
Warren Buffett, yes. Bill Gates, not. But many others, yes, including presidents of states. I had the opportunity to meet Bill Clinton in person, and other who was kind of past president at the time, immediately past, and people like that. Quite a lot of top CEOs, and also I must confess that you get a lot also from less known top CEOs that can teach
Mm.
you a lot. So I cherish a lot of dinners with people that if I told you their name, not necessarily would they tell you anything special, but they were fantastically important for my personal growth.
Hmm. That's amazing. Do you feel that those interactions with some of the most incredible people in the world helped shape you in a meaningful way?
Absolutely, totally, no doubt. I believe that ultimately choosing mentors and having tons of mentors is fundamental for growth. Even today, I do that constantly, and I'm very lucky to have very many mentors. Most of them in my shareholding. Starting, I will mention one who is pretty famous. Mr. Fajin, the creator of the microprocessor touch interface, awarded by Obama as inventor of the century because he invented the silicon gate transistor, created the first ever microprocessor when he was at Intel, the 4004, then spun off and became an entrepreneur, creating the Z80, most popular microprocessor of the 80s, the one that was in Commodore 64, Spectrum, etc. Then he created the trackpad, creating synaptics that got the leadership of the trackpad market, and then touch interface, leadership of the touch interface market. It's like, pretty impressive person. And currently, he's writing phenomenal books about consciousness and the nature of us living beings. And from the point of view of a physicist, essentially explaining quantum physics and what quantum physics can tell us about ourselves, which is
Mm.
a fantastic topic. And I'm very blessed to have him as
So,
one of the top investors of Innova, and definitely one of the if not the number one mentor that I had in this adventure.
Wow. What are the lessons that you're learning today that's elevating you and your own capabilities?
Well, there are so many that it really depends on the context. In general, I would say if there's one lesson that is common for all entrepreneurs, and it's a trite statement, but we all know it, is that it's hard, and so you need to be ready. And ready personally means that you need to have a lot of self-trust and energy, which isn't, I'll put it in science of neurotransmitters. There's dopamine and there's serotonin. It's not dopamine, but it's serotonin. Dopamine means, positive thinking, like I expect that, yeah, don't worry, everything will go well, etc. Well, actually, you can believe it, but the reality is very often it doesn't. So you need to be ready for things not going well. And if you exaggerate with quote unquote positive thinking done badly, you just smash your face on a wall thinking that everything will go well, and it doesn't. Well, instead, what you need is a very healthy dose of serotonin, which means you need to be trusting yourself, to have a rock solid self-confidence when people will doubt you. You need to listen as well, because it's not just the
Mm.
type of self-confidence that makes you say, oh, they're all stupid, and so, I'll do what I think, and the hell with that. No, you need to listen, because even in people that are not necessarily friendly, there may be a grain of correct stuff. So listen to everybody, and then do what you feel like being the right thing. But that requires a lot of centered energy, and it's very energetic or very personal, but that's the most important part, because at least to me it happened, and it happened to a lot of entrepreneurs. You find yourself in those moments when cash is running out and things are not going as you were expecting, and you kind of don't know what to do, and you need help, and you need to be centered and also able to ask for help. And if you do it in the right way, then it comes to you. While if you kind of depict a world of enemies, or kind of polarized in wars, etc., then it's not going to happen, and then you're going to be very unhappy.
Mm.
While instead, if you kind of maintain confidence, positivity, you think that things may go wrong, not just right, and you're prepared with plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F. I typically got to very often to plan F and plan G. So, that's kind of normal, especially in tech companies. So that I believe is the thing that applies to everybody. And mentors are very important, going back to what I was saying before. And friends, I was lucky, for instance, that my co-founder is a best friend, and very complementary to my skill sets. So we were an excellent team in adversity, and we are an excellent team in also less adversity now. In having more fun now that things are less adverse. But it's very important to surround yourself with mentors, people that can help you figure out the right thing,
Yeah.
rather than
I love that.
alone.
It's such great advice, because there's so much to know out there, and if you think you can know it all, you just can't. And so getting great people around you is so powerful.
Yeah. No,
I want to go
absolutely.
now to kind of the transition point. Obviously, you have this amazing job with McKinsey, one of the best top consulting firms in the world. You're working with some of the most interesting, largest, gnarly problems in the world. So you're being fulfilled, but you're now being tempted to start your own organization, your own company. Walk us through that experience.
Yeah. Completely crazy, right? When you get to the point where you totally know how to do the job because you're very successful at it, etc. And I was actually pretty successful and happy at it. But I felt, it's interesting. I got to learn it with one of my mentors and sisters, also a big shareholder of Innova, and she leads the biggest executive coaching firm in the planet, Mobius Executive Coaching Leadership. And And actually, at McKinsey, since I was advising top people and I was working on transformation, we were doing a lot of work also on ourselves, because you can help people to get only where you got personally. So we were doing a lot of self-work on becoming stronger, better, etc., to help our clients in adversity. Because when you need to kind of restructure a company, you're on the newspapers every day and everybody attacks you, etc. As I was saying before, you need a lot of also internal strength. And actually, one of the things that I realized is that I was telling myself that I wasn't doing what I felt I should be doing. So, it was very much a matter of alignment with what my subconscious was telling me that I should do. And ironically, I started listening to a lot of people, also friends of mine at McKinsey, that were telling me the same. They were telling me, Guido, you are an entrepreneur. Why don't you kind of do what you are supposed to be doing? It's like, you're great here, but you are a different animal. And then, I realized that they were right. Ironically, one of them, a very good friend, at the beginning, when he told me, I thought it was sort of an insult, because he was telling me that I wasn't a good consultant. But then I realized that he was totally right. I had to be an entrepreneur. And of course, there were times when I cursed at myself for, not staying in the more quiet and protected and fantastic environment of McKinsey. But ultimately, we need to do what we need to do, and definitely this is the path that fulfills me much better.
So why VNova? Why compression as opposed to starting a different kind of company?
Well, in reality, just because life is not really a marathon like people say, but life is kind of pigeon shooting, or whatever it's called, that thing where you need to be ready with a compass, look in a certain direction, and then when it's passing, you say "pooh," and you shoot and you try to hit it, and kind of that's the reality of life. Having a precise map. The map may be wrong and doesn't get you out of the forest. While if you have a compass, you adapt to what you find, and ultimately you find the right path. And in reality, VNova happened because it happened, and there was an opportunity that was large enough where my skill sets could help, and that's what happened. But frankly, it could have been things in totally different realms. I mentioned before that paradoxically, I'm more of an expert of even other fields. And frankly, going forward, I don't exclude the possibility that I'll be an entrepreneur in totally different fields, always involving radical innovation for positive effects, but not necessarily just in digital or in compression, etc. But, of course, this adventure was clearly relevant. So it kind of fulfilled it ticked the check boxes of, it's relevant enough, it's difficult enough. It was much more difficult than I thought, unfortunately, and actually I found that it could be a great growth opportunity also.
So was there something that happened? Like, I don't know, did you study graphics cards and you realize there's some issue there that you wanted to improve? Like, how did you even know this was an opportunity?
Well, actually, paradoxically, I had identified the field of data compression being relevant and an opportunity when I did my thesis when I was in Texas. It was actually on, I did my thesis with Intel on FPGA acceleration of video encoding, where I was supposed to create a certain speed up of encoding with MPEG-2 at the time, and we failed the project by achieving a lower speed up. And I had demonstrated that we failed it not because we did a bad job, but because the algorithm itself was not designed to be parallelized, and so it was less suitable for kind of the direction in which Silicon Power was going. I had actually a lot of very interesting conversations/fights with some academics that didn't agree with me at the time. But ultimately, at the time, I didn't decide to dive into finding a solution. So I only identified that there would have been ways to do things differently, possibly more suitable to the way in which silicon processing power was evolving. But yeah, I left it at that, and I decided to kind of pursue a different career path. Ironically, my first practice document at McKinsey was called "The Opportunities of Video Streaming." It was a lot about the big opportunities that there were in the video streaming. We are talking about early 1999. So, I was looking at that. And then when I became an angel investor much later, after over 10 years later, I found one of our co-founders who actually had a lot of background and mathematical background on parallel processing, graphics engine, and encoding. And so, we started discussing about things, and then, together, I posed to him the possibility to kind of have ideas in that direction. He had a very good idea of the right direction, and then we worked together on finding a solution. And from that, we realized that there was a big opportunity at stake.
So did you end up building the solution while you were still at McKinsey, or did you jump all into this and just get an office and choose to work on it?
I would never recommend to, kind of do such a jump without having thought about it carefully. So at the beginning, I invested in it as the lead investor, and I created a small team that was working on creating a prototype. And I was working during weekends on writing patents. So, I was working on the scientific part of the technology, but only on weekends and with the finger of my left hand. And then when it became more serious, actually, one of our customers, the CEO of a major broadcaster in Europe, told me, "Guido, what are you doing playing with McKinsey? This is your thing. You should be running it and growing it." And so ultimately, I discussed it with my partners, and I decided to take the plunge. Ironically, actually, a lot of my partners are still shareholders now of Vinova. So, I feel in very many ways, still a member of the McKinsey family in another sense. Instead of being partner of McKinsey, I have a lot of McKinseys that are partners of mine. But, it kind of feels the same in many ways.
That's amazing. So you jump in now full throttle.
And actually, to be honest, I forgot a very important element of all this. My main co-founder, who, as I mentioned, is also a best friend of mine, and we've been best friends since childhood. In a lot of angel investments in the past, he had never invested. But on this one, actually, he decided to invest big time. So, while I was being lead investor, he was being second largest investor. And actually that also pushed me to dedicate a lot more attention to this, because it was unusual for him to be so involved in a tech entrepreneurial endeavor. So, he's also in large part responsible for this thing becoming serious.
That's great to have that vote of confidence. So you jump in now full time. What are those early years like for you?
Well, the early years, they were ridiculous. They were, of course, when you are a management consultant, you can be as good as you want, but you are not an entrepreneur. You're not a leader of a small tech team. And there are a lot of things that you're missing in the roster of your skills. And it showed. So, I was very crappy CEO at first. And thank God we survived those times. And this is kind of the typical dilemma that you have that actually keeps a lot of people stuck, because sometimes you become a guru or you become very good at something, but you figure out that something is not necessarily the right thing for you or for the world or for whatever. But fear of moving from being a guru at doing the wrong thing to being pretty poor at doing the right thing, paradoxically,